I... I have a daughter.
I'm so glad to hear it. Remember, our future.
Time travel is inhumane. I've seen science fiction where people who travel back in time first learn how to be observers. Kat and Alice lack such training, and they are not simply witnessing a past event, it is their family history. The Way Home Season 1 Episode 9 reminds us how difficult it is to remain objective, and the results are devastating this time. Kat was feeling pretty good about herself after the events of The Way Home Season 1 Episode 8. She may not have changed anything, but she had gotten the information she needed about her father and was eager to learn more. Dell is still convinced that Colton was having an affair due to an unidentified woman who attended his funeral. The Way Home, Her Old Room Season 1 Episode 8. Time travel is addictive. Kat could have let it go after discovering Colton had never lost faith in his family and was trying to find his way back to them with the help of a grief support group. But the drug kept calling to Kat, and she had to return to see if she could save Colton's life. She, on the other hand, was the cause of his death. How on earth will she live with that? Is Colton's death always the result of his daughter and granddaughter, or was there another factor at first? It's extremely perplexing. Season 1 Episode 9 of The Voice of Reason, The Way Home. We now understand that you cannot change time. At least, not from what we've seen so far. Going back, on the other hand, has disastrous consequences. Is it all bad, though? Colton would have died if they hadn't returned, just as Jacob would have died if they hadn't returned. A trip through time provided more answers about Jacob's disappearance but no explanation, and Kat and Alice learned the truth about Colton's accident, but they would probably do it all over again to undo the damage they caused. I'm wondering if that's how the season will end. Is there going to be a reset? Here's why I believe there is. The Way Home Season 1 Episode 9, Sharing Secrets. For me, something Alice said leapt off the screen. I wish I could just jump back into the pond and start over. I sincerely wish things were different. I wish I could just jump back into the pond and start over. I really wish things were different. It was such a significant statement, and I can't help but wonder if that's a possibility. But if either of them returns with that intention, won't they unintentionally erase Alice? As the story currently stands, Alice was her mother's best friend. She can't undo everything. She was a part of Kat's past, even if she is now her daughter. What if she chose not to befriend Kat and integrate herself into the family? Another moment that stood out in terms of time travel was when Colton said that if he could just have 5 more minutes with Jacob, he'd tell him everything. The Way Home Season 1 Episode 8 Commiserating. Kat and Alice are well aware that it is not that simple. There is so much fear about how you might influence the past that you don't say anything and try to observe and influence without being noticed. What would have happened if Alice had arrived at the house claiming to be from the future? She would have most likely been dragged away and committed. Kat may have fared better because she knows everything about her family, but she could still be considered a lunatic if she claimed to be a time traveler sent from the future to change the future. The Way Home Season 1 Episode 9, Drying Off. Traveling to the past, while fraught with impossibilities and disappointments, provided Kat and Alice with much-needed perspective. Alice grew up quickly, understanding her mother better and getting to know her family in a way that no one else could help her put her childish antics behind her. Kat realized how much she loved her mother and was able to see how Dell processed things differently, and how they ended up so far apart. They've grown closer simply by remembering the love they once shared. And, of course, Kat realized that it's always been Elliot, and if things had been different, she might have seen it. Her father's death and Jacob's disappearance unmoored her, and instead of leaning on Elliot as she always had, she fled with Brady, hoping to escape the pain. A suspicious hint, The Way Home Season 1 Episode 9. Kat, on the other hand, went through a completely different type of pain with a bad marriage that ended in divorce, but she found her way back to Elliot when she saw him clearly for the first time. Kat, the night your father died, I took your hand in mine. Brady was standing right there. I took your hand because you were the one I needed, and you are still the one I need. Elliot, I need you as well. I've always done so. Kat, I should have kept your hand in mine and never let go. Elliot, you weren't thinking clearly that night, were you? How could you have? How could you see clearly now? Kat, you have to trust me as well. Hey, I've never seen anything so clearly. You must also have faith in me. Hey, I've never seen anything so clearly. Elliot is in a bad way. On the one hand, he's listening to Alice's declaration that she wouldn't return to the past again and wondering if she'd feel she'd missed out on something if she didn't. And on the other, he wanted Kat to stay in the present with him instead of leaning back. He turns out to be as perplexed about time travel as Kat and Alice are. It's interesting, though, that he understands Alice's journey better than Kat does, owing to the fact that he knew Alice and was a part of her journey for decades. It stinks that Kat is so caught up in the past, but they have so much time ahead of them that it seems impolite to almost demand she stop thinking about the past. A New Beginning, The Way Home Season 1 Episode 9. It's as if he forgets that, while he's known about this for almost his entire life, Kat has only recently discovered the pond's magic. He needs to be a little more forgiving of her misdeeds and offer her a shoulder to cry on while she comes to terms with what he's had decades to figure out. Would it be cruel for them to be torn apart so soon after reuniting? Sure. However, the fact that they found each other so quickly lends itself to further narrative scrutiny. How often do couples on television get it right the first time? Overall, there has been tremendous progress in all of the relationships. Kat is looking for answers for Dell. Kat and Alice are more in love than ever, and Alice addressed Dell as grandma, the sweetest sound her ears had ever heard. Perhaps we've made too much progress, or perhaps I'm a glutton for punishment that will never come and am far too cynical for my own good. Season 1 Episode 9 of The Way Home. We're almost at the end of Season 1 of The Way Home, and those are just a few of the thoughts racing through my head. It's difficult not to remember the opening scene of The Way Home Season 1 Episode 1, and wonder if it will factor into the final moments of The Way Home Season 1 Episode 10. Any show that uses time travel to tell a story is willing to surprise its audience. What surprises await us in the finale? The Way Home, Sealed with a Kiss Season 1 Episode 9. How will Kat and Alice forgive themselves for causing the fatal car accident? With that heavy cloud hanging over their heads, can they call it quits on time travel? Is it possible to challenge what was through time travel? Or is it simply impossible and crueler than kind? There is a better way to find answers than to go through a family tragedy for the second time. There must be. There is a better way to find answers than to live through a family tragedy. Will they have to deal with family tragedy for the third time? Is there a fourth? Or does it end? And when does healing resume? Kat is still trying to convince Dell that the unknown woman at Colton's funeral was involved with her husband. Will Kat revert to the person she wants to prove doesn't exist? Will she and Alice ever tell Dell what they've been through? The Way Home Season 1 Episode 9, Relaxing with Wine. We still have so many questions, and Kat may not be finished searching for answers for herself. Tell me in the comments what you think the finale will be like.